Hey everyone, Chris here from IELTSadvantage.com and welcome to our first live YouTube lesson. So this is a new thing for us, and what we decided to do was kind of bring our classroom onto your phone or onto your PC. So we've created this new studio with nice lighting and a nice board so that we can do more live lessons for free for everybody. We're not going to be giving away everything for free, but what we're going to be doing is 3 or 4 lessons a week. We're going to try and do them at the same time every week, and this lesson is our first lesson, so it's a bit of an experiment. But the great thing that we can do now is we can stream to you in like 1080p, really high quality streams on YouTube, and we can teach you on the board or teach you all the different things, and also we can interact with you. So on the phone I can look up my YouTube account and I can see all your questions and your comments and all of those different things. So if it's working okay, comment below and let me know that you can hear me and that you can see me and everything. We'll also be doing a live Q&A session at the end of this. So if you're joining us live, stick around until the end and we'll be able to answer any of your questions. Okay, so let's get going. So today's lesson is all about time management, and time management particularly for the IELTS reading test. A number of you requested this lesson because a number of you said that 2 things are happening. Number 1, you're not getting to the end of the reading test on time, so that's obviously causing you to lose lots of marks because either you just don't get enough time to answer all the questions, or you're answering them really quickly, so you don't get to look at the text properly and look at the answers and consider them properly. The other thing, and this is probably a more common problem, is that you're really stressed out in the middle of the reading test. So you see the clock ticking by and the stress levels continue to rise, and when that happens our brains just don't function very well, especially the frontal part of our brain that deals with reasoning and logic doesn't really deal very well when you're stressed out. So this lesson is going to focus on helping you with time management, helping you lower your stress levels on test day, and helping you to get the test done on time. So we have our first comment, and it comes from Gurshan. Thanks very much for the first comment on our first YouTube live lesson. So I'll be looking at the comments at the end. So if you have any comments, just let me know. Feel free to comment below the video and I'll get back to you at the end. So looking at a lot of the information out there on IELTS reading time management, out there on the internet and in books and different sources, it's the same approach again and again and again. What they are trying to do and what students want are time management tips. So do time management tips work? Well, if they worked, you wouldn't really need this lesson. If they worked, you'd be able to just look at a bunch of tips, go and do the test and get the score you need. Obviously, these time management tips don't work. And I want you to think about it this way. Imagine Usain Bolt. So Usain Bolt, you probably know who that is. I hope that you know who that is. The fastest man in the world, or is he still the fastest man in the world? No, someone else broke his record. But anyway, a very fast runner, 100-meter runner. And imagine the people finishing behind Usain Bolt. So people that finished in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. Did they have time management issues, or did they have running issues, that they just weren't as fast as Usain Bolt? Or think about someone doing a marathon race. The person finishing first, do the people finishing behind him, do they have time management issues? Do they need time management tips, or do they need to become better runners? It's exactly the same with IELTS writing. If you are not finishing the test on time, or you're really under pressure and really stressed out, you do not need time management tips. And I'm not going to give you time management tips because they don't work. You have to think about it in a completely different way. You have to get better at reading. Your reading skills have to improve. Your knowledge of the test has to improve. Your knowledge of the different questions has to improve. And we're going to look at that in this lesson. So let's look at some of the key things that you need to think about when it comes to IELTS reading time management. So the first thing that everybody talks about is skimming and scanning. If you go into any IELTS classroom in the world, if you look at any IELTS website, everything to do with IELTS reading time management will be skimming, scanning. All you have to do is skim a lot and scan a lot, and you'll miraculously finish the test on time and get the score you need. It's not as simple as that. What I see is a lot of websites and a lot of teachers just telling students, you skim, then you scan, then you find the correct answer. It's a little bit more complicated than that, and you need to think about it differently. So skimming and scanning are very useful in terms of time management because they save you a lot of time, because inherently they allow you to get through the text much faster. But does that mean that you just skim and scan and get everything done really quickly and then you'll get the score you need? No, you have to think about it a little bit more strategically than that. Like everything that I teach, I try and get people to think about it in a more strategic way. So let's look at two questions as examples. So the first question is matching headings, where you'll be given a list of headings and you have to match those to different paragraphs in the text. A different question is true, false, not given, or yes, no, not given, where you're given a list of statements and then you have to say whether those statements are true, false, or not given, or yes, no, or not given. Now these are two different questions and they require two different types of skimming and scanning, or they require a different approach to skimming and scanning. So matching headings, you'll be doing a lot of skimming because you have to get through the text. It's a very long text, and you also have to get a general idea of each paragraph in order to match that paragraph to the text or to the heading. So if you go really quickly, you won't understand it, but if you read every single word, you'll run out of time. So you're looking for a balance there, and that's where skimming comes in, where you're reading it quite quickly to get the overall idea of each paragraph, and then you can hopefully match those ideas, those titles, to the list of headings. But if you apply that strategy, that same strategy, to true, false, not given, you're going to get into trouble because you're using a different strategy because it's a different question. So for true, false, not given, what you'll be doing is you'll be looking at the statements and you'll be looking at those and thinking about synonyms and thinking about the keywords within that statement, and then you'll be scanning, so you'll not be skimming so much, you'll be scanning for the location of where the answer is. So as you can see, these are just two of, there are multiple choice questions, sentence completion questions, yes, no, not given, true, false, not given, matching headings, labeling a diagram, labeling a table. All of these different questions require a different mix of skimming and scanning. So you need to be aware of the different types of questions, and you need to have an individual strategy for all the different types of questions, because you're going to be using a different strategy for true, false, not given versus multiple choice versus summary completion versus matching headings. All of them are testing different sub-skills and skills, and you need to have a different strategy for each of them. And if you learn that strategy, that is going to help you get everything done, not quickly. So the goal shouldn't be to do the test as quickly as possible. The goal should be to complete each question properly. And a strategy will allow you to do that and allow you to address each question and find the answer properly and in a time-efficient manner. You shouldn't really think about how can I do it as quickly as possible, because if you do it that way, you probably make lots of mistakes. The other thing is you need to be aware that the reading test is as much a vocabulary test as it is a reading test. So when I work with my students, what I'll get them to do is I'll get them to analyze their mistakes. So they'll be doing a reading test with me and I'll ask them, look at your mistakes and try and establish why you made those mistakes. And often it will be nothing to do with time management. They will think it's to do with time management, and they'll say to me, I need some time management tips. I'll say, no, actually think about why you got that question wrong. The reason why they got that question wrong was because their vocabulary just wasn't as good as it needs to be yet. So someone with a nice wide-ranging vocabulary that understands everything they need within the passage, within the text, they'll be able to quickly identify where the answer is, quickly think about synonyms, think about the meaning of different words, and they'll be able to quickly establish what the meaning is, or what the answer is. If you are, a little bit lower in terms of vocabulary, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be struggling because you won't be able to find where the answer is in the text because you don't understand the words. You won't be able to identify the correct answer because some of the different, let's say multiple choice, there's 3 different options and each of the different options is quite similar in meaning, so you don't really understand what to do, so that's going to take you extra time. So in order to improve your time management, a key thing is you need to improve your vocabulary. Just like the analogy I used with Usain Bolt, the guys finishing behind Usain Bolt, they didn't need time management tips, they needed to become faster runners. So if you need help with time management on the reading test, maybe it is because you just need to improve your vocabulary. Improving your vocabulary is going to improve your performance on the reading test, but it's also going to improve your performance on the listening test, on the on the writing test, and on the speaking test. So it's really worthwhile trying to improve your vocabulary in that way. The second thing is, not the second thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth thing, these live lessons, if I make any mistakes, I can't edit them out. So there you go, everybody makes mistakes. So obviously, you need to practice. So one of the frustrating things is when I get a new student and we would talk about, the skimming and scanning, and we would look at each question and give them a step-by-step strategy. And some students, not all students, but some students will look at the strategy that I give them once, and it's like step by step. Step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. Step 3, do this. They'll look at it one time, try and do one set of questions and go like, oh, that doesn't work. Well, of course it doesn't work. Like, could you learn how to drive a car by getting one lesson? Could you learn how to tie your shoelaces by just trying it one time? What you need to do is when you have strategies for these specific questions, you need to do a lot of practice. You need to learn how to apply those strategies to practice questions. And just like driving a car, when you first started driving a car, you had to think about, the acceleration and the accelerator and the brake and the gears and the mirrors, and you had to consciously think about everything. But as you practice, now when you start a car, you just go away in the car without even thinking. Also, a critical part of practice is reflection. So if you are, like I had one student yesterday and she emailed me and she's like, I only got 17 correct and I'm going to fail, and that's, I don't know what to do. And I said, okay, calm down. The most important thing when you're practicing, especially if you get a lower band than you're expecting, is to reflect on your mistakes. So don't focus on the things you've done well. You can analyze those too. But the most important thing is you focus on your mistakes. So this goes for listening as well as reading. You can look at each of your mistakes and try and figure out, why did you get that question wrong? Was it a vocabulary issue? Was it a spelling issue? Was it a grammar issue? Was it timing? You were running out of time? Was it you were completely lost? You didn't have a strategy? Was it because you didn't understand the different types of question? What was it? And then you can focus your attention on the patterns that will emerge. So for many students, for example, it will be spelling or it will be vocabulary, and then you can attack that problem. But it's really important that you do reflect on that. And then finally, you have to read, all right? So a lot of students, when it comes to time management, they come to me and they say, please give me time management tips. I want you to give me 10 time management tips. And I say, when was the last time you read in English for an hour? And they say, never. I was like, well, how are you going to do that for an hour on test day? So that would be like, again, Usain Bolt. Maybe Usain doesn't do any training for 6 months. and he gets a little bit fat and he doesn't, his muscles start to deteriorate. Does he need time management tips, or does he just need to get back on the track and start running a bit more? If you're having time management issues, it might be that you just don't read enough. You should be reading every single day in English if you're hoping to get one, especially if you're hoping to get one of the higher scores. Like, it's amazing how many students come to me and say, I want a band 8.5 in IELTS reading, but I don't want to do any reading practice. And it doesn't have to be boring IELTS practice tests. It can be anything that you're interested in. So if you're interested in cricket, read about cricket. If you're interested in gardening, read about gardening. If you're interested in, I don't know, live video streaming, read about that. Whatever you're interested in, read for 10, 15, 20 minutes a day, and that's far more effective than what most people do, which is wait a week before their test and then panic and then be like, okay, I better start reading now. Prepare, realistically you need weeks, months, some people even need years before they're able to get the score that they need. But that's much, much better than failing the test. I was on Facebook Live about 30 minutes ago, and there was a guy said he's failed the test 15 times. So would it be better if that guy had have prepared properly and put the work in, rather than just repeating the test over and over and over again? Because luck, good fortune, hope, none of these things are going to get you the score that you need, but doing things properly and preparing properly will. Okay, so let me see if we have any questions. Wow, we have a lot. Cool, it's the first time we've ever done this and we actually have questions, which is good. So let me get some of the questions. This is the first time I've ever used YouTube Live, so I'm trying to get through all the questions. I'm trying to look through them. 20 hours ago. Gershan says thanks a lot. Tahir says hello. Would you like to give long free lessons about writing this month? Would you like to give long free lessons? That's what I kind of do every day. So yes. All right. So what I'm going to do before I go into the Q&A session is I'm going to set you a task. And this task is really, really going to help your reading scores. This is the task that I give all my students the very first day that they start with me on my courses. This is what I tell them to do. This is what I'm going to tell you to do. It's free. You can do it at home anytime you like. Don't need the help of a teacher. And it's really, really going to help you. So task one. So number one. Whoa. YouTube is showing me ads on my own stream. So number one, get free practice tests. You'll find these at the British Council, IDP, IELTS.org. Or you can just Google them. You'll find many, many, many free reading practices. Just Google reading practice tests. Make sure you're using practice tests from real sources. If you use fake practice tests that are not produced by Cambridge or IELTS or the British Council or IDP, they're probably way too easy or way too hard. So don't use fake practice tests, but it's really easy to find them online. Number two. Do 2 or 3 tests under exam conditions. So don't cheat and have Google open and have a dictionary with you and take 3 hours to do one test. Do it in 1 hour. Do it without any help, because the next stage is it's really, really important that you get a real sense of where you are at the moment. All right. So number 3. You're going to analyze your mistakes. And you're going to analyze your mistakes in 2 ways. Number 1, by question type. So this, most of the time this applies, doesn't apply 100% of the time, but for many people they have particular problems with particular types of question. So for example, if all of your true, false, not given questions are correct, then that's not a question you should really, worry about too much. But if you do 2 or 3 tests and all of your matching headings questions are incorrect, then where do you think that your time and your attention should go? You should focus on the questions that, you focus on your weaknesses. For every aspect of IELTS, focus on your weaknesses first. So once you identify any particular question types that cause you problems, then you can strategically start to focus on them. Number 2, think about why you made those mistakes. So think about, was it vocab? Was it grammar? Was it time? Was it strategy? Because that again, was it spelling? That again will allow you to strategically attack your weak areas. So if you're looking at your mistakes and like 80% of your mistakes are spelling mistakes, then that's a really, really good thing, because now you know the reason why you're not getting the score you need. You could focus on improving your spelling, and by doing that, you're going to improve your score. If it was vocab and grammar, then you need to focus on that. If it was timing and strategy, you need to focus on that. But if you do that task, and it'll take you 4 or 5 hours, it's a lot of work to do, but you could do it over a weekend, or a couple of hours in the evenings each night this week. It is really going to make a huge difference to your awareness of your weaknesses and allow you to improve. Okay, so that's pretty much it in terms of the lesson. Let me see if there are any questions. Not that one. No, either there are no questions, or I'm not seeing the questions. But there was one question I seen from Tahir. It says, "Hello, would you like to give?" Are you seeing any questions?
Yeah, that was one of them that came up.
Okay, cool. Just let me check if everything's working okay. 52 people watching. So, hello to the 52 people watching. If you have any questions or anything like that, then let me know and I'll be able to answer them for you. And if not, I will go and I'll look at your questions that you post below, and I'll come back maybe tomorrow and try to answer them for you just by typing in the answer. But I'll give you guys a few more minutes to give me any questions that you have. And also in the comments, let me know what you think of these YouTube lessons. Did you find them useful? Would you prefer Facebook, the old lessons that I did where I just pre-record everything? Do you think the live element is good? Let me know what you think, either good or bad. If there's anything you don't like, feel free to tell me. Even better, if you don't like something, tell me so that I can fix it. Oh, there's a bunch of questions. So, if you can see this, no questions, loads of questions. So, all right. Top chat. All right, so let me see. So the first question is, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing any of your names, Kirthana. Chris, are we allowed to scribble, underline on the question paper? Of course you can, yeah. Do whatever you want. You paid for it, so do whatever you want there. On the answer sheet, obviously try and keep things as legible as possible so that the person, for your reading test, so that the person correcting it can see clearly what your answer is. Dear Hans, strategy for matching headings. So I'm not going to give you the full step-by-step strategy because it's very long, and I don't want to give you a strategy and miss essential parts of it. But one quick strategy for matching headings that works really, really well, and I've worked on this with a lot of students and they've all said that it really helped them, is when you see matching headings questions, don't look at the list of headings first. Look at the text first, so the paragraphs first. So don't look at the headings, the list of headings at all. And what you want to do is look at each paragraph, read it, skim it, read it quite quickly, but read it enough so that you are able to create your own heading beside each paragraph. So what you want to do is read the paragraph and then quickly scribble. If you had to think of a heading, what would you write? And even if you don't think that it's accurate, but just do it. Do this in practice. It really does work. And then at the end, you will have a list of your own headings, and you'll be amazed at how many actually match the list of headings. And then it's really simple to just match those up. So that works really, really well. Try that, but you need to practice it. Don't do that for the first time in the test. Don't try new things for the first time in the new test. So Rabin, that was your question as well. Mohammed, I wonder about the order of the questions in the reading tasks. Sorry. It keeps showing me ads. I must turn the ads off. Sorry if you're getting ads too. So some questions, some types of question on the reading test, the answers will be in the same order as the questions, and in others, they'll be in different orders. Off the top of my head, I don't know 100% what those different types of questions are, but they're on my website. You can go and have a look, IELTSadvantage.com/reading, and it's listed there, so you can have a look there. Let me see. Any more? So a lot of you are asking about how to generate ideas for an essay. So that's kind of a whole lesson in itself, and I might do that, later this week or next week about how to generate ideas. I want to do a full lesson on that. I don't want to give just quick advice, but what I always say to students is don't brainstorm. Brainstorming is the #1 reason why you cannot generate effective ideas. That's what 99% of teachers will tell you. 99% of IELTS teachers will tell you, brainstorm. All you have to do is just brainstorm and then you'll get the ideas. If that worked, then most students wouldn't have a problem with it, but it really doesn't work. There's another technique, there's another thing that you can do that is much more effective, and I'll make a whole lesson on that. So if you want me to do that, put it in the comments or like the video. And if you want to keep up to date with everything, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, hit the bell, and then when I go live again, you'll get a notification. Let me see. Kurintha, can you explain the strategy for true, false, not given? You'll find it on my website. You'll find it on IELTSadvantage.com/reading. So, or just Google IELTS Advantage true, false, not given. It's up there. Eunice, what's the easiest IELTS test? General training or academic? It totally depends on you and the way that your brain works. So the biggest difference between academic and general training is writing task 1. So for general training, it is writing a letter. For academic, it's analyzing a data source or a process or a map or something like that and writing a report on it. Some people really like academic task 1 because that's, they like charts and graphs and stuff like that. Someone like me, I don't really like charts and graphs and data, so I would prefer general training, but it's totally up to you. But the answer to that question is not really within your control, because whoever you're applying to will tell you that you have to do one test or the other. So you probably don't have a choice, but if you do have a choice, have a look at both writing task 1 for general training and academic, and make a decision based on that, because speaking is exactly the same, listening is exactly the same, task 2 writing is the same, reading the text the texts are different. So general training, general text, academic text, but the style of questions is the same. The strategies and stuff are the same. So have a look there. Can we write answers all in capital letters? Reading test, listening test, yes, no problem. Corintha, skimming, scanning, any other strategy? Skimming and scanning is not a strategy. So skimming and scanning are two sub-skills. So the three sub-skills, reading sub-skills that you need to worry about are skimming. So that is reading something quite quickly to find the general meaning of it. So if you're in a bookstore and you're looking at the back of the book to just get the general gist of what the book is about, or you're reading the news and you're just looking for gist to see what it's about, that's skimming. Scanning is when you're looking for specific information, so a timetable. So if you're at a train station and you're looking for the next train to Paris, you're going to be scanning for the word Paris, then scanning for the times, and that's how we use that. But the most important sub-skill is close reading. So reading the text actually carefully, because that's where the answers will be revealed. So a big mistake is when you tell a student, just skim, just scan, and then you'll get the scores you need. Because you're ignoring close reading. You're also ignoring the fact that different questions require different elements of skimming and scanning. So they're not strategies, they're sub-skills. I hope that answers your question. How can I improve my speaking without a partner? Very good question. Use one of these. All right, so you should have, not you should have a smartphone, but it's likely that you will have some sort of phone that has a recording app on it. So it's obviously not as good as having a partner. What you really want is to have, an IELTS teacher, a good IELTS teacher, doing mock tests with you and giving you feedback. But if that's not available to you, a really good technique, and everybody should do this who's practicing or preparing for the speaking test, get your phone, get some practice, real IELTS speaking practice tests, a full practice test, read each question, and then answer the question like you would in the real exam. Then listen back. So that's the essential part of it. Listen back and think about the 4 marking criteria. So pronunciation, fluency and coherence, grammar and vocabulary. Think about those things, particularly pronunciation. Was everything you said clear and easy to understand? Fluency, could you speak at a natural pace without many pauses and hesitations? Grammar, were you making many grammar mistakes, or was your grammar quite accurate? Vocabulary, were you making lots of vocabulary mistakes, or was your vocabulary quite accurate? Did you have enough vocabulary to discuss each of the different topics and questions? If you can answer yes to a lot of those questions, then you're doing quite well. But listening back to your performance will raise your awareness of particular problems that you have. So everybody should do that, whether they have no money at all and they can't afford a teacher, or they have the best teacher in the world. Doesn't matter, you should do that. Let me see. Someone whose name I can't pronounce says passage 3 is mostly filled with research papers and thesis, and it is very hard to get over it. Okay, so I don't understand exactly what you mean, but I'm going to guess that you mean that there are lots of words that you don't understand in that part of the reading test. First of all, that's totally normal. You will never, ever, nobody will ever look at an IELTS reading test paper and understand 100% of the words. Even people who are native English speakers, they will look at some of the words and be like, oh, what is that about? The reason why that is because when, let's say you're from, I don't know for sure, but based on your name, let's say you're from India. When you move from India to, let's say you move to London, How many new words every day are you going to see in newspapers, on TV, on billboards, listening to people, interacting with people? There will always be new words that you don't understand. So what the IELTS reading test and the listening test are doing is they're testing your ability to be comfortable with communicating in English while at the same time not understanding 100% of the words that you see or that you hear, because that's real life. That's what you're going to have to cope with when you move to wherever you're going to move to. But there are different strategies that you can employ or deploy that will help you deal with that. So number one, just accept that you're not going to be able to understand every single word. I don't understand every single word I see in an IELTS reading test. If it's a really academic scientific paper, you know, not every English speaker knows every single word in the English language, even though some of you think that English teachers should be able to do that, but we can't. Number two, get used to guessing meaning of new words from context. So during your preparation, this should be part of your preparation. So when you see a new word, let's say you're reading a newspaper article and you see a new word, don't immediately look up the meaning. Guess the meaning from the context that it surrounds the word, the different words around that word, the sentence around that word, the paragraphs, the whole context of what is happening around that word, and get used to guessing that. And then, if you still can't guess it, then you could look up the meaning, expand your vocabulary, and that will help you. Okay, so Babu, my exam is on the 12th of May. Good luck, Babu. If you need anything, just let me know. Stephen Quigley, IELTS is a scam, 100% money monster. Okay, Stephen, thanks very much for your input. Okay, guys. Thank you very much, guys. I think that's all. What time is it? Do I have to go? Yeah, I'm going to go. I think that was pretty successful for our first YouTube live lesson, but let me know what you think about it. And if you're watching the recording of this, feel free to comment. Let me know how you get on with this task. It would be really interesting if you guys went away and did this task and then told me which questions you have a problem with and why you're having those particular problems. And that will be really interesting. And yeah, subscribe, like if you've liked the video. To the person that says that, who was he? That it's a scam. Maybe don't like it. You can dislike it if you like. You're free to do that if you want. But to the rest of you, feel free to subscribe and hit the bell so that you'll get notified. We're going to be doing a lot more on YouTube, and you'll also find us on IELTSadvantage.com. You'll find us on Facebook, IELTS Advantage, and you'll find us on Instagram, IELTS Advantage. Thank you very much, guys. It was a pleasure teaching you, and if you need anything, feel free to get in touch, Chris at IELTSadvantage.com. Thanks very much, guys. Bye-bye.